Like, honestly, Wednesday night is my favorite night of the week, and I look forward to this every week, and I hope you do too. We are in this series called Beginner's Guide to Connecting with God. How many of you have that friend you can hang out with and you do stupid stuff together? Like stupid stuff. Yes. Yes. Like, and here's the thing, when you have that friend that you can do stupid stuff together, you don't hang out with them just because it's like, gee, I can't wait to do stupid stuff with my friend. It's that you look forward to spending time with your friend and the stupid stuff just kind of happens. When you're a boy particularly, your mom walks into a room. She smells something that smells like someone has died. How can you guys sit in that? Oh. What did you guys eat? Oh. And then mom leaves the room and you laugh hysterically. It is awesome. It's the best. Or it's like the weird things that can become entertaining. Like you're sitting in there and you're like kind of watching something on Netflix and there's a wadded piece of paper on the floor and somebody kind of kicks it with their foot and all of a sudden there's a full-fledged soccer match going on in the middle of your family room, right? Because when you're with people that you have a relationship with, you do stupid stuff. And it's about connecting with these people that you love. And that's a lot of life. You were made to connect with other people. You were made to be worthy of being connected with. And honestly, that includes God. God wants to connect with you. In fact, just like with people, connecting with God means spending time with Him. And we're actually gonna talk about that together because that's what you do in a relationship. Last week we talked about having a relationship with God. And a relationship means that I open myself up, that I talk to Him. It means that I let Him into my life. It means that we share life together. See, God is super powerful. And one of the things people don't understand is what's even more powerful than someone who has a lot of strength and uses it is somebody who has a lot of strength and chooses not to use it. That actually is even more impressive, and that's love. When you choose to hold back because you care more about who's in front of you than being right, that's love. God does that to us like all the time. And we can connect through God a lot of different ways. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna actually take us through a little bit of a journey. There's 3 different people that we're gonna look at that are from the Bible. These are people who really lived, really died, and really had a relationship with God. And each of them are gonna show us how we can spend time with God. Here's the first one. The first one's this guy named David. And David shows us that we can actually spend time through music. How many of you love music? Like you love me. That's me. How many of you, if we're just really honest, you have a song playing in your head almost all the time? Just be real. Yeah, that's me too. How many of you, if you could, you would have at least one AirPod or earbud in at any given time? How many of you have made someone driving your car go back to your house because you forgot your headphones? Be real. Yeah, you're my people. Right here, you're my people, okay? See, we were made and wired to love music. And the thing about music is music connects us. Music connects our emotions. Music connects our memories. Music connects our thoughts and our hearts. Music is powerful. And there was this guy named David who found out the same thing. David had daily chores that he had to do. Now, when I was in middle school, these were my chores. I had to pick up dog Dookie on the back lawn. Anybody else? Anyone else? I had to take out the trash. Any take out the trashers? How about doing dishes? Anybody got to do dishes? Yeah, you're my people. Now, David had to take care of sheep, which I'll be real, if I had the choice, taking out trash, dealing with doggy doo, dealing with sheep, I'm gonna take the doggy doo because sheep are stupid, okay? Just saying, do your research, sheep are stupid, but they are delicious, by the way. Anyway, I love all the little animals. God gave them to me to eat. They're lovely, yes. All right, anyway, back we were talking about David. David had chores, just like you and me. One of David's big chores was to take care of the sheep. While David was in the hills taking care of the sheep, David didn't have the luxury of having a phone that we can listen to music through. David didn't have the luxury of having like your grandma's like old school classic iPod that has a click wheel on it, okay? He didn't have that. He didn't have these ancient shiny things called compact discs. He didn't have vinyl. Like, see, Pastor Colby collects vinyl. I love records. Records are awesome. I collect vinyl. He didn't have records. And see, this is what he had to do. He had to do two things. He either had to remember songs that he had heard before, or he wrote his own songs. If you look in the Bible, there's a book called Psalms, Psalms. The book of Psalms is literally a book full of poems, song lyrics, and prayers. And of the 150 Psalms that are in here, 73 of them were written by David. Some of them when he was as young as 11 or 12 years old. How many of you are 11 or 12 years old? Raise your hand. That's how David spent time with God. In one particular moment in Psalm 32, David wrote these song lyrics. He said, "For you are my hiding place. You protect me from trouble. You surround me with songs of victory. The Lord says, I will guide you along the best pathway of your life. I will advise you and watch over you." I was backstage here 2 minutes ago before the lights came on and the band left. And there was this beautiful moment that, if I'm really honest, I haven't had a whole lot of times in this room with you. And that's where I could hear you singing louder than the band on stage. And as your pastor, it's like a proud moment for me. It was an awesome moment because I felt there was such emotion and connection and authenticity in the room, where I felt like in that moment you were opening yourself up to set aside your own words and sing words to God and let Him into your life and in your heart. See, there's something powerful about songs that way. The same way that if you watch a really great movie, most really great movies have really great soundtracks. Your life was meant to have really great soundtracks. And one of the ways you can connect with God is through music, just the way David did. Here's the next one. There was a guy named Joshua. Early on in the Bible, there's this guy named Joshua. Joshua was a young dude. He was being mentored by somebody named Moses. Anybody ever heard of this guy named Moses before? Moses mentored this young guy named Joshua. Moses would go in to spend time with God, listening to God, praying to God. They didn't have a church building like we have. We had a tent, and he would go into the tent and he would spend time learning more about God and praying to God. This is what we actually read in the book of Exodus 33. Joshua, who's a young guy, goes into the tent with Moses, who's mentoring him. And this is what it says about him. Inside the tent of meeting, which was a tent they used as a special church building, the Lord would speak to Moses face to face as one speaks to a friend. In other words, he had a prayer life with God where he felt that he heard God respond back to him, and he learned from God. But listen to this. Remembering that Joshua is a young guy, might not be a whole lot older than some of you in this room when this was written down. Afterward, Moses would return to the camp, which is where all the tents were that people lived in while they traveled. But the young man who assisted him, Joshua, son of Nun, would remain behind in the tent of meeting. We don't know what he did there. He might have literally spent time journaling things that he remembers from learning from Moses and God talking. He might have written his own prayers and his own stories and his own songs. He might have literally been writing down questions maybe that he had. But he spent extra time. He had set aside time with God that he was making in his own life. And one of the few things that you can control are these little moments of time where you can control what you listen to, what you watch, and how you spend your time. I know that some of you are crazy, stupid, busy. I know that. But I also know that every one of us in this room, if we're not careful, can lose 2 hours scrolling through Instagram or YouTube without trying hard. Okay? Been there, done that, bought 8 t-shirts, okay? Here's the third one. This is another one that's super important. So a lot of people don't realize this, but Jesus was literally God in human form. Jesus was born a human birth, lived a human life, died and rose again to prove that he was God and man. And one of the things that happened is we get to see that Jesus was born and had to figure out as a middle school age student how to learn from other people. So from Jesus, we can learn that we can connect with special times with people who also connect with God. So there's a story about Jesus going with his family into the big city, to the big, huge, fancy church building. And they get separated. Mom and dad get separated in the crowd. They realize Jesus isn't with them. They go back. And this is where they find him. In Luke chapter 2, verse 46, Joseph and Mary, it says they finally discovered him, meaning Jesus, who at this time is 12 years old. How many people do we have in the room that are 12 years old? Okay, about a third of our room, okay? And finally discovered him in the temple, sitting among the religious teachers. These were the pastors. These were the volunteers, the small group leaders, listening to them and asking them questions. And all who heard him were amazed at his understanding and his answers. See, here's the other way that you connect with God. You can connect God with through music. You can connect with God through set-aside times that you make with him. But here's the other one that's super important. You can connect with God through set-aside times with other people who connect with God. So like you're being here tonight, you're connecting with me. And I'm telling you, I try to connect with God. If you come back here on the weekends, on Saturday night or Sunday morning, not only do you get to connect with some of our staff members, but you can get to connect with some amazing small group leaders who spend time getting to know you and helping you understand more about what it means to have a relationship with God. Because the same way that if you want to get a better swing and you're a baseball player, a better shot if you're a hockey player or a football player or a lacrosse player or a soccer player, or you're struggling in math and you need tutoring, or you're a volleyball player and you want to learn to have better footwork and better work at the net or a better serve, you're going to listen to people who are going to help you get better. When you have set aside time that you make with people who also connect with God, they help you connect with God. And we all need that. See, the thing, because here's the thing that some of us do. Some of us don't realize this. But when you have a relationship in your life that has a lot of authority, sometimes you'll think God is like them. So if I'm really, really honest with you, some of you have heard me share this much about my stepdad who raised me. But my stepdad, if I'm really honest, particularly when I was like in middle school and late elementary school, I had a rough relationship with my stepdad, because if I'm really honest, I was scared of him, because there were times he could be a little rough with me, and I was scared of him, and he was the main authority figure in my life. And the way I lived my life was literally trying to stay out of his way, out of trouble, and in the right place at the right time. And one of the things that I realized is the way I viewed God was influenced by the way I viewed my stepdad. That there were times that I'd have a hard time talking to God. There were times that I had a hard time understanding that God just loved me and I didn't have to somehow prove myself to God. Because what happened is the person who was the authority in my life shaped or shifted the way I saw God. And I think that there's a lot of us that might do that without realizing it. But when you realize that there's a healthy way that you and me can connect with God, it changes things. And so right now, I want you to understand that spending time with God is a way that you can clearly connect with God. When you see him, that he loves you as you are, and he wants to hear from you. So if we're just honest and not being weird about it, I know that every single person in this room talks to themselves every day. I know that you do. You can try to deny it if you really want to, but I'm telling you, I know that you do. The research proves it. In fact, research says you talk to yourself more than you do anyone else.
Yes, I do.
But here's the scary thing. Sometimes you also talk back to yourself and you tell yourself really terrible things. You call yourself really terrible names. You're really hard on yourself when you look in a mirror, or when you screw up, or when you walk into a room or you walk down a hall. You're hardest on yourself. What if you and me, maybe we used our time to connect with God instead of just connecting with ourselves? I talked to a friend this week who got into a terrible car wreck and had a family member get terribly sick and hospitalized. We talked about how she needs to pray instead of talking to herself and worrying. We talked about how what we need to do is invite God into those moments. Rather than worrying, rather than stressing, we talk to God. The music we listen to. Let music be a way that you connect with God. I know you love music. We all established that. I don't know if you know this, but we have a PTSM Spotify list. Look it up. It's there, it's real. Don't do it right now though, because it's super distracting. If you want to ever know what songs we're singing, and you want to know how to look them up, if you were to talk to people who are in the band, I'll bet they would love to tell you where and how to find those songs so that you can create your own playlists. But if you want to connect with God through music, it's a fantastic way to connect with God. And then the other one that I just can't tell you even enough to do is, man, connect with people that connect with God. Connect with a small group leader. Connect with a mentor who loves you and loves God. Connect with us so that we can have a chance to get to know you. Come to High Def, come to Mission Arlington, come to camp with us. Come on Sunday. That's a chance for us to get to connect with you. See, here's the thing, and I'm getting ready to be done. In Mark 12:30, we read this. Jesus is asked what's most important, what is most important. And that's always a good thing to know. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind, and with all your strength. See, that means that you're supposed to love God with your heart, what you worry about, what you dream about, what you're stressed about. With your mind, what you think about, where your mind wanders to, what you're thinking about next, what you're strategizing and planning. And with all your strength, you're supposed to love him with where you move and where you go during the day. Here are my rhythms that I've built over time. I set my alarm for a little bit before I should get out of bed, and I take time to pray for the day. I pray for you, I pray for my family, I pray for people who are sick and hurting, and I pray for people who need jobs. Those are the things that I feel like I'm supposed to pray, so those are the things I pray. One of the other ones I do is throughout the day, if I start to feel worried or scared, which I do, I'll pray. Rather than worrying about it, I try to think to pray. Rather than just talking to myself, I try to invite God into those conversations. The other thing I do is I listen to a lot of different kinds of music, but one of the things I try to have regularly in my playlist is I try to listen to like worship music. I listen to stuff from Hillsong. I listen to stuff from Planet Shakers. I listen to stuff from Jesus Culture. I listen to other stuff that tries to focus on Jesus. There's a lot of great stuff out there. If you look for Christian gospel music, you'll find all kinds of cool stuff on Spotify or Amazon Music or Apple Music or however you listen. There's a lot of good stuff out there. But you were made to have a relationship with God. You were made to be loved by God and not have to face stuff alone. And you and me need to spend time with God because relationships take time. I'm gonna take a moment and pray for us because I want you to know that you're worth spending time with from God.